Welcome to Kates and Cartoons, where DC Comics and Saturday morning cartoons collide. My name is Brandon. Along with me on this journey, you know him, I know him as the greatest storyteller of them all, and that's not just because of his username or anything like that. It's just because he is a good friend of mine and a great storyteller with us. Please welcome back Nick. Nick, how you doing?
No, I'm doing good. It's a nice day outside. Can't wait to go outside and experience this nice hot weather.
Exactly. Now, Vans, what we're going to be doing today is usually Nick and I will get on and talk about a famous crossover that DC put out. In the process of us doing Adam Strange and Future Quest, we kind of started realizing maybe we should actually cover Future Quest before we do Adam Strange and Future Quest, just so you guys know what's going on. Now, if you guys don't know what Future Quest is, Future Quest was a 12-issue miniseries released by DC Comics, I want to say in 2016, 2017, kind of leading to these crossovers. DC used them, so they had the license still, utilizing the characters as much as they could. And it kind of allowed us to kind of see all these characters combine. So you have Space Ghost here, you have Jonny Quest, you have the Herculoids and Birdman, and you get all these characters. You will find Dino Boy later on and the Mighty Mightor. So we're gonna see characters throughout this series that you guys are gonna remember from Saturday morning or cartoons. But today, what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be going over issue 1. Now, I'm gonna be doing the breakdown of issue 1. We'll kind of go into what our thoughts are, our favorite scene or scenes, and then kind of get you leading up to what could actually happen in issue 2 based off the information we know. So without further ado, let's get into issue 1. Now, we start off on on a distant world. A Space Force unit is watching the last city of Vera Nova as it's completely obliterated. But at the same time, one of the units has Omnicron, which we will notice is the main villain for this series, cornered at the chassis. But his defenses are overwhelming. They combine their power bands and aim at his core, but the energy begins to overload it. At the last second, Azura shields the captain, saving him, but he watches the rest of his unit be obliterated. But we go from a depressing scene and we just go straight to the Florida Everglades. And we see pretty much Jonny Quest, Haji, and Race as they're investigating strange phenomena happening around the area. This is kind of where we get that Dr. Quest has been kind of looking at these vortexes and kind of trying to plan out when they're coming and everything. And he's predicted another light show or vortex. And pretty much what their job is to go gather information around that area. Meanwhile, we find out Dr. Quest is actually back at the lab preparing for an important meeting. This is where we get another character we all know, Birdman. Or at the time, we only know him as Ray, but I'm sorry. You have his pet bird Avenger with him in a cage. Everybody's going to know you're Birdman, buddy. Like, at this point, there's no disguising it. But
It's a blue falcon. How are you gonna disguise it?
we paint it green, okay? It's like,
No, this is an Avenger, as like they miss a couple of spots on him, so he's talking with a blue.
Dr. Zen's just sitting there like, oh, I see a blue feather. This is Avenger. He's like, no. But at the time, we know him as Ray, and he's with Avenger and a character that was created for this series named Diva Samadhi. They arrive at Palm Key to meet with Dr. Quest. We go into the lab and we see Dr. Quest, and he explains that these vortexes have been appearing around the world and disappearing just as quickly. But each one is lasting longer and becoming more dangerous. He reveals a rock that he has recovered from one of the sites that has properties not found anywhere in our solar system. But then this is kind of where we kind of see some of the villains from Jonny Quest's past. Dr. Zen. Now, Dr. Quest pretty much explains that Dr. Zen has already been tracking these vortexes and has beaten them to several locations, collecting samples. He believes Zen may be working with a larger organization, and Ray and Diva suggest the group could be Fear. Now, Fear is also a major thing in Hanna-Barbera stuff because that is the main organization that Birdman goes up against. But A vortex does open and a ship crashes through it. Of course, Johnny, Haji, Race, and Bandit rush to investigate but are immediately attacked. And Race's helicopter is shot down, Haji's jetpack fails, and Johnny saves him just before he hits the ground. They look up and see multiple vortexes opening, which is probably one of my favorite shots, because you do see a lot of characters and kind of a lot of hints of what's actually going to happen. Before they can do anything with this, they are attacked by Zen's spy robots, which we do see in the cartoon as a big ball with one eye and very, very thin robotic legs that has laser. uh, Race does survive the crash and he contacts Dr. Quest and explains the situation as enemy forces close in. Dr. Quest and Diva move out while Ray realizes that he needs to help and transforms into Birdman, calling in Avenger, which this is where it's like, duh, you don't do nothing to disguise him. He looks exactly the same that you would put him out there in battle with. And what I love about that too is that they actually say that it was like a myth, that most people didn't even know Birdman existed. Like they always heard that was just more of a myth. But this is where, before we see any battle takes place, we cut to Dr. Zen. Now, he explains that the entity behind the vortexes can't pass through the hole and is breaking into fragments. And another force is trying to hold it back, but it keeps pushing through. Zen reveals these fragments can be controlled, and his goal is to capture them before they can recombine and use them for fear. Now, we zip back to Johnny and Haji as they hide from Zen's spies and hear a strange voice saying, "We connect, we cross the void." They don't understand it, but it clearly ties to a larger mystery at this point. But as they run away from Zen's spies, they stumble across Tundro from the Herculoids. It's just laying there on the ground. Haji's using it to jump, and he moves. Ugh, he almost falls. But this confirms that other worlds are finally colliding into this Earth. And as more vortexes open, they're attacked again, but rescued by a kid named Ty. Now, Ty is, again, another character who was created for this series, but he will play a major part throughout this series. But this is kind of where the issue starts to end, because as they try to process everything that's going down, a glowing light forms in the water, and a figure rises from beneath the surface. It's Space Ghost. Now, Space Ghost does end this issue, but let's talk about this. What was your favorite scene in issue 1? Let's go into it. What's the one scene that stands out to you the most?
I would probably have to say that it was Space Ghost coming out of the water, because we don't know how he got there and up until like the next issue, but we don't know how he really gets there. And it's kind of surprising that the instant he bursts out, he just immediately goes to attack mode, meaning that something was going on with him and whatever he was doing, you know? So I gotta say that scene is probably my favorite scene, is like leaving up the question of why is he there to begin with? He's not a Earth hero, he's a outer space type of ranger like hero.
Right. Exactly. And that was one of my favorite scenes, but one of the other scenes, and I think you might agree with me in some ways, is Zen's scene. Because this is kind of where you finally get a little hint to what everything is happening. Why is this going on? Like, he is pretty much the one that actually does it. We'll see that he is going to be a prominent character throughout this series as well. But Zen's scene kind of puts more into perspective of what's actually happening. And so when you kind of see that going on, like, how do you say it? It's kind of like a sense of like Dr. Quest. We're in Dr. Quest's shoes because we're trying to figure out everything that's happening, right? Zen
Yeah.
kind of already knows what's actually, but again, Zen doesn't know everything, but he's got a more of a foot on it than Quest does. So I always like that scene. I love the little flashes to him that we kind of see him kind of as a prominent character through this series, not just like a cartoon where he's a back surround character, or it's like, "You beat me again, Dr. Quest,"
Oh, you curse you,
And
Dr. Quest.
at least we got a pretty consistent design for him too. It doesn't look like one
Yeah.
minute he looks like this, the next minute he looks like this. And fans, if you guys don't know what we mean, go check out the Jonny Quest cartoon, but no, going in, we don't condone some of the stuff they do in the series, but Dr.
Yeah.
Zen is always drunk inconsistently. But that's what I said. I like that they kind of put the Quest family as the main characters too, because you kind of see it through their eyes. And of course, with their cartoon, you know them as an adventure family. They're ones that deal with weird situations. Do you think it was smart for them to put Jonny Quest as the main character, or could you have seen a different character be the main character for this series?
I can definitely see Jonny Quest being the main character due to the fact that everything that they deal with is on Earth. They deal with like mad scientists, like robots built by mad scientists, and things that look like they're from outer space, but again, built by mad scientists. And then when something from outer space comes to their world, they're pretty much a fish out of water and they don't really know how to deal with this kind of situation. It's like Mr. Quest
Bitten.
Ben Quest, yes. Ben
Bitten.
Quest
Yeah.
is always the man that knows everything, especially if you go to the Quest TV series. He doesn't really seem like he's never not knowing what he's dealing with. But now, since he's dealing with something that he truly doesn't know, it makes it a lot more interesting. And also kind of interesting how they are going to deal with this situation.
That's kinda how I looked at it, is like we said, they're always the family that deals with weird situations. Um, if it's from being a gargoyle that hunts down stuff, or there's a lot of weird things they deal with, and to kinda see Bitten kinda be a couple steps behind Zen is always kind of an interesting kinda take, but that's why I said too, to have this where they're the main family and kinda being the one that connects with all these characters, I think was a smart choice by DC to do this. But yeah, I think this is a great way to kind of head out of our episode here. Again, next issue will be Future Quest 2. We're going to get a little bit more what actually happens with Space Ghost. We're going to see some other familiar characters show up for the first time in this series. So, fans, let us know what you guys think about issue 1. What did you think? Do you like Johnny Quest and his family being the main characters, or do you wish they would have went with somebody else as the main character? Let us know that in the comments. Check out myself and Storyteller here for the Capes and Cartoons segment on YouTube. Remember, if you like this content, you want more of it, remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and hit that bell notification so you never miss an episode. Again, thank you, Storyteller, for joining me on this podcast. Please tell the fans where they can find you.
You guys can find me at The Storyteller on YouTube, as well as the same name on TikTok. Those are my two most prominent areas, and I'm mostly, I used to have an Instagram, but I wasn't really using it too much, so I just got rid of it. So find me on TikTok and YouTube.
Thank you again for joining me on this. Check me out at DC Comic Talker on Instagram and TikTok. Yes, I still have an Instagram, even though I don't really use it.
At least you don't have
But
a Twitter.
I'm mostly on here like, no, God, no. Uh, I have a Facebook page. Okay, does that?
Well, that's better than Twitter.
And fans, until next time, stay heroic, stay animated.